Natalie Elphicke has harshly criticised Sir Keir Starmer's stance on immigration. She joined the pro-Brexit European Research Group, the ERG, and has reportedly criticised Labour for being soft on migration and untrustworthy when it comes to running the economy. So I ask because she seemed to have such opposing views to so many fundamental policies of the Labour Party, and yet you say now she is a good, natural fit for the party. Could you understand why that might be confusing or difficult to understand?
Well, people can change their minds. And as I said before, Natalie Elphicke is not the first Conservative MP who's taken this decision. You could have also, I'm sure, read previous criticism of the Labour Party from other Conservative MPs who've taken that decision.
He's now a Labour Member of Parliament in the House of Commons, and Diane Abbott, the longest-serving black Member of Parliament who's a woman in our country's history, is currently not a Labour MP in the House of Commons because you are keeping her out of the party. How come Natalie Elphicke is an acceptable face for Labour in the House of Commons and Diane Abbott is an unacceptable face?
Well, Natalie Elphicke rightly apologised for those comments about Marcus Rashford, which were unacceptable. And also there was, if I may finish, there was a parliamentary process quite rightly, and the sexual assault conviction was, of course, an extremely serious one, and there's no place for sexual harassment or assault in Parliament or anywhere else, and that was clear ultimately in that parliamentary process, which was then applied to Natalie Elphicke. When it comes to Diane Abbott, obviously Diane was a trailblazer for the Labour Party, an incredibly important figure. There is an independent complaints process that applies to complaints in the Labour Party. I'm not going to comment. Well, that's because it's critical that there is a robust process that applies in the same way to everyone.
So just want to ask you about one final thing, which is what Miss Elphicke said about her husband. She said, she may well have retracted these comments, but she said he was charming, wealthy, charismatic and successful, attractive and attracted to women. All things that in today's climate made him an easy target for dirty politics and false allegations. Mr. Elphicke was convicted later of sexually assaulting 2 women and sent to prison. You're Shadow Secretary of State for Women and Equalities. So do you see your new colleague as an ally in the fight for those equalities?
Look, this was an incredibly serious case. It was a criminal case, as you rightly said. It was one, of course, which had a judicial process around it and a parliamentary process. And Natalie Elphicke, quite rightly, was subject to that parliamentary process. She has gone through it. And as I say, rightly so, because this is an incredibly serious subject.
Not very long ago, she was very critical of your plans, accusing you of wanting to open the borders to immigrants. She said you were making a tax grab. She criticised your anti-car policies, pandering to the unions over strikes, undermining the Rwanda bill. I mean, how do your views actually align with hers?
Well, I think anyone who looks at the statement that she's released today will see very clearly that she is someone who's absolutely passionate about changing our country for the better.
Do you think the leader did his due diligence, or it was done for him? Or did he even do a quick Google search to find out that after her ex-husband was convicted on 3 counts of sexual assault, she said that he was punished for being attractive and attracted to women? I mean, what does that say, that you've got someone like that in your party? What does that say about Labour's attitude to women?
I mean, I agree. If you read solely her statement yesterday, you probably conclude that she has similar views to most members of your parties. But of course, if you read more broadly in some of her past statements, not even statements from that long ago, that there's many that directly conflict with that, whether she's saying don't trust Labour on immigration, whether she's saying that Labour wants open borders. She called Keir Starmer a softie. I guess, again, I just come back to the point, a full switch from someone from Labour to the Conservatives. Is there a limit to how many people you could take like that without it looking like you're pursuing headlines rather than principles?
Well, of course, it has to be clear that people share the Labour Party's approach, that they're committed to changing our country for the better in the same way that the Labour Party under Keir Starmer's leadership is. But, obviously, Natalie Elphicke was previously a Conservative MP. So indeed was Dan Poulter. So indeed was Christian Wakeford. All 3 of them have taken that decision to ultimately switch to a party that has got a plan, a plan to deliver that housing that's needed, a serious plan
on migration, a serious plan for our economy as well. And ultimately, in doing this, she has put her constituents in Dover first, and indeed the national interest first.
I asked that question specifically about whether Natalie Elphicke is a good fit for the Labour Party because she supported Liz Truss in the 2022 Tory leadership contest. And your party, the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer, has been very clear when it comes to the opinions of Liz Truss and her management when she was Prime Minister. Natalie Elphicke has harshly criticised Sir Keir Starmer's stance on immigration. She joined the pro-Brexit European Research Group, the ERG, and has reportedly criticised Labour for being soft on migration and untrustworthy when it comes to running the economy. So I ask because she seemed to have such opposing views to so many fundamental policies of the Labour Party, and yet you say now she is a good, natural fit for the party.
I know she's done a lot of work on housing, but I just come back to the Rwanda scheme. She was very, very much in favour of the Rwanda scheme. Is she now against it?
Well, I think many people may have looked at that and thought it would work, but she's seen very clearly as a coastal MP, as indeed have many people in our country, that this is a scheme that is not going to be delivering. It's a costly con. It's one where we're going to see enormous amounts of public money being squandered on a scheme that is not going to deal with that terrible tragedy of loss of life in the Channel. It's not going to break the criminal gangs, and it's not going to deal with the backlog either.
As it happens, I agree with all of that, but I come back to my best. As chair of the Labour Party, you are clear that Natalie Elphicke has renounced her support for the Rwanda scheme.
Well, I believe she must have done, because obviously she's crossed the floor to the Labour Party. We've been very clear that that Rwanda scheme is a costly con. It's one which is unworkable, it's extortionately expensive, and it's not a serious plan to deal with a serious situation.
You're going to have to go on a journey as well, aren't you? Because I just want to have a look at a tweet that the local Labour Party in Dover and Deal sent out about some of the MPs in Kent. There you go, Dover and Deal Labour. After a bad Christmas on Twitter, we're wondering, is Miss Elphicke Kent's worst MP? I mean, you'll be pleased with that. You're on that list there, but you're not the worst MP. It's Natalie Elphicke. Have they changed their minds then?
Well, actually, what I've heard is that there is support for Natalie Elphicke's decision, including, actually, amongst many of her constituents. I just heard, actually, in a previous programme that there was a clip of one saying that she's someone who's always been passionate about housing, and obviously she's not seen that delivery of housing that local people need under the Conservatives, and she's putting her constituents first on this. And I know that local Labour Party is desperately concerned about that as well, particularly the situation, actually, for children in overcrowded housing and temporary accommodation. And so she's put that front and centre of her decision to switch to Labour. I'm sure many voters will be taking that decision too.
Time as an MP, and says he said the Labour Party should be in the business of changing the country, not saving the careers of Tory politicians who are swimming away from a sinking ship.
Look, I have a lot of respect for Mish. I know him very well. I know that he is someone who cares passionately about housing and about particularly the impact on children of deprivation, the impact of those failures on housing. And so what I would say to Mish is to really encourage him, if he hasn't already, to read that statement that Natalie Elphicke released yesterday, because I think when he reads it, there will barely be a sentence in it that he disagrees with.